Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Phil Yanov.
Right. That's why I come to work, is so I can do this. Listen, but what we're here to do today, of course, is to talk to my pal Tim LeBon, who is here already and with us. And we are going to talk about Stoic Week 2025. And that's why we're here. So let me, Tim has, we're going to get you guys kind of warmed up, make sure your fingers are working all that first. So let's do that. Wrong one here. Let's see. First off, take your fingers over to the chat and tell us where in the world you are, because Tim is really chuffed when he finds out that people are from all over the place when they come to this event. So just go to the chat and tell us where you're from. Tim, read out any of those you want to read.
Florida, Leicester, Tennessee, Devon, Michigan, Ohio, Springfield, Illinois, Arizona. So a lot of people in the States, Tampa, Toronto in Canada. Very good Stoic on there. Got South Africa, Washington, D.C., Calgary, Vancouver again, Copenhagen, South Carolina, Uruguay, Manchester. So lots of people from the States, quite a few people from the UK, and people from varied places as well, like Uruguay.
Yeah.
Greenville. High Desert,
Alan,
Arizona.
Alan says he's in South Carolina. Alan, so you're in my state. Have you ever told us what city you're in? I mean, Tim won't know that is, but I will know what that is since I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, USA. So I'm just south of Charlotte, North Carolina. Turns out, like a lot of times we talk to these speakers and it's like, oh yeah, I've been to Greenville. It's almost always to visit friends, not for anything else in that regard. But high desert of Arizona, lots of UK, a lot of US, but people from all over the globe ready in for Stoic Week. Tim, looks like.
Fantastic. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah, that's right. You're welcome. Here's the only problem is well, that's not true. I was going to say we deliver this in English. Most of the stuff we deliver in English. The book, Tim will tell you, is actually in a variety of languages, but we've had it translated. But most of what we're doing is in English. All right, here's a quick question for you. How long do you think that you've been practicing Stoicism? By the way, this isn't, you're not going to be tested. We're not going to go back and run a background check on you for your Stoic bona fides. And I guess point of this is, again, some folks are going to be a long time, 10 years. Some of them are brand new. Everyone is welcome. We're glad to have you. I just like the idea that when we're talking to people that they're all over the place in their experience with this, Tim. So it's kind of fun.
Right.
Tim, I know that you and I talked I know that you were there in the beginning, Stoic Week, right? First one was 2013, right? So 2013 did you think when you started this that Stoic Week was the thing that you were here to start and then Stoic Con kind of came along, or was it the other way around?
Well, it was actually in 2012 that a very small number of us got together in Exeter and we did a kind of trial Stoic Week there, which was mainly students at the University of Exeter. And then
Hmm.
2013, uh, he got a bit of publicity. A few hundred people took part, I think. And the Stoicon idea was just, hey, wouldn't it be good if some of us met in person? I think it was in London at the time, and then there was the
Yeah.
idea that to do it in the States and other countries as well. And uh, I don't know, I mean, none of us in the original Modern Stoicism, uh, that room where it all started, thought that we'd be meeting today. And last year, about 5,000 people. I just checked the numbers today. Almost 5,000 people signed up for Stoic Week on the Teachable platform, and Stoicon uh, on Saturday, another big global event. So
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't guess it would be this big.
It's yeah. I mean, but it's kind of it's fun, and I'm the thing is, you've seen people who've participated in it in quite a number of years, and I enjoy that some of the journeys that we've been able to share, and I like and thank you to Larry, by the way, for getting us links inside here. I haven't done that yet. I've had them on the screen periodically, but Larry's helping us out, making sure we get our screens in there, but the or links inside there, but you know folks, and I mentioned, I always come back and mention Bridget Delaney. I think it was funny because she was writing a column for The Guardian in Australia, and she did Stoic Week as a goof, kind of like AJ Jacobs did things as a goof for the New Yorker, I guess it was. But anyway, then she's like, wait a second, there's something here. And she came back and did it again, and she got her friends together and they did it together. And I was like, yeah, I think there's something here. And of course, you're going to tell us all about that. Uh, One of the things that Tim asked me to ask you is, have you done this before? And by the way, we have this in the form of a poll. So I'm going to take this poll and stick it up, and you should have it on your screen. And the question is, where are you in Stoic Week? Have you done this before? Is this your first time? I, by the way, stuck in there. I've started previously, but didn't finish because that would have described me the first year. I started it, but didn't quite get it done. And then I did it, and then I did it a couple times. So I'm in the few times category at this point. But some folks have done it quite a few times.
Yeah, and I'll wait for a few more people to fill it in, but it's looking like most people are on this call have actually done Stoic Week or started it, but a sizable number, just over 40%, it will be their first time.
Yeah,
In
excellent.
fact, it's going up 43%. So maybe the people who it's the first time were a little bit nervous putting that in, because that seems to have come with a bit of a spurt at the end. Uh,
Yeah.
and and a couple of people have done it lots of times. Uh, so I mean that's useful to know for me, because I have got some slides, and I think it probably is worth me spending a bit of time on those for the 20 people that are very interested to know what Stoic Week is, and don't really know. And hopefully for the other people on the call and watching, it'll be a useful reminder, and perhaps some motivation to do it again if they want to. Because I do think that even if the materials stay pretty similar, which they are, uh, we can gain so much just by revisiting the ideas, because we're not the same as we were a year ago. We are perhaps progressing.
I mean, I think there's a couple ways to look at that, but yes, there are things that didn't make sense to me the first time that makes sense to me the second time, and then that keeps going. And of course, the more I practice with my stoicism, the deeper I can get. I always tell people that at the beginning, when you get started, it's like you're swimming on the top, and then eventually you learn to dive a little bit deeper, and you learn to dive a little bit deeper, and you learn to appreciate what is there and to be learned a little more. And I am a different person every time I do it. And then someone's, of course, already quoting Heraclitus inside the chat. We never step into the same river twice. That's right. Okay, folks, a couple things administrative before I get this started, right? So, we'll have links. Again, Stoic Week is coming up. Larry's put the link to StoicCon. StoicCon's is Saturday. This is kind of also a little bit of a test about how we're doing StoicCon. So again, on Saturday and when we're doing other things, two things. We were going to, we'll be streaming, for example, Stoicon on YouTube. This is being streamed right now on YouTube as well on the Modern Stoicism channel. You, the audience, are set into what we call focus mode. We will be doing the same thing on Saturday. We've been doing that with our conversations event, but just in case you're new to us, that means the audience doesn't see each other, but you can see us, but we can see you. So when you nod and you give us a thumbs up and you let us know that things are working for you, that's helpful feedback for us to know. When you cock your head to the side like Nipper, the dog, we also know that maybe what we just said didn't land and we have to say it a second time or we have to explain ourselves a little bit. So, giving us that little bit of feedback is useful. Uh, and today's event, by the way, this is our 33rd Conversations with Modern Stoicism event, which is kind of fun for us to continue to be here after all this time. Today is in the form of a pop-up, which in this case means we do not intend to do breakout rooms today, although we normally do breakout rooms, and we intend for this event to last about an hour. So there's a countdown clock. If we need to go over, we might go over to do Q&A, but the idea is we intend to deliver this information to you. And if you say I got to be somewhere else in an hour, you can be somewhere else in an hour. Fair enough? Thumbs up if you understood or heard any of the words that I just said. Thank you, Patricia. Vanessa was the one I was really testing. It's like, was she paying attention to me or is she off doing something else? Okay. Thank you. Look at all those thumbs in there, Tim. They're paying attention. Tim, can I introduce you and then you've got this and you'll talk to the audience? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce Tim LeBon. Tim LeBon is a distinguished academic and practitioner in the fields of philosophy, psychology, and psychotherapy. He earned a first-class degree in philosophy, politics, and economics from Oxford University, followed by an MPhil in philosophy, ethics, and ancient philosophy from London University. After a stint in the software industry, Tim trained in counseling and psychotherapy, becoming a pioneer of the philosophical counseling movement in the UK. His first book, Wise Therapy, was published in 2001. Tim later returned to Oxford, earning a distinction at the Oxford Centre for Cognitive Therapy, achieving an unusual double first. He is now a founding member and director of research for the Modern Stoicism team. Currently, Tim maintains a private therapy, counseling, and life coaching practice via Zoom. He also works part-time in the NHS as a senior IAPT, high-intensity CBT therapist, and lectures at City University and City Lit in London. Tim has authored 2 additional books, Achieve Your Potential with Positive Psychology, published in 2014, and 365 Ways to Be More Stoic, released in November 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, with me, please welcome Tim LeBon. Oh, wait, I could do that. It's all you, my friend.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share the results of the poll, just so you can see that indeed most of you have done Stoic Week, but 38% haven't. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen with some slides that I prepared earlier, because I think that will help focus us. So this is, can people see that? Thumbs
Yes.
up or can other people see it? Yes?
It's working.
Yeah, it's working. Great. So this is going to be about Stoic Week. I'm going to talk a little bit about the research as well, which you might have to stop me talking about the research, because otherwise I just get too excited, long-winded about it. I'll try and keep that bit brief, but it is kind of interesting. So that's what Stoic Week is. And some people kind of think Stoicon, Stoic Week, what's the difference? So Stoicon is a one-day event, which is next Saturday, and Stoic Week starts Monday week, and it's an e-learning event. So sometimes I get emails saying, hey, can I, I'm going to be working that week, can I do it? Yes, absolutely. Just do it in your spare time. If you can do 15 minutes a day, that's probably going to be useful, although people that can spend a bit longer benefit more. So why do Stoic Week, other than the fact that Phil and I and people like Bridget Delaney say it's a good idea. Uh, well, a lot of people have taken part in Stoic Week since it started, and we as part of Stoic Week we do some research on what the well-being of people is at the start, at the finish, and we also collect qualitative feedback, and that's what it tends to show is that certainly at least the people that fill in the surveys both times have always shown a significant improvement in well-being, and uh, and they also say things like I'm calmer, I feel I've got more control over my life, and I'm starting to make it a habit. So if you did Stoic Week last year, you might recognize the daily topics because they are exactly the same. But there is a very good reason why they're the same. And a little bit of a spoiler alert is that these topics were kind of backed up by the research, the empirical research, as mapping on pretty closely to the 7 dimensions that were found empirically to be present in Stoicism. So each of these is important. I think what's very important is that in Stoicism, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So you could do any of these on their own. And in fact, that's how we're introducing it. We're introducing on the Monday the dichotomy of control and related ideas. Tuesday, emotions and the idea of that we can either assent to our first impressions or not, and we can use the gap between stimulus and response to decide what to do. But it gets a whole lot more powerful when you start to put them together. And I want to kind of see if that turns out to be true in a little experiment I'm going to do today. So the program structure. So it's designed to be flexible. So this isn't meant to stop people doing it in a different way. It's just kind of what makes it would make a lot of sense if people had 10 minutes in the morning or perhaps a bit more to read the day's concepts and plan how to use it, maybe listen to a meditation. Use that throughout the day. There's a lunchtime check-in where we've got some more resources. And then in the evening, a review of how it went. And as I'm sure many of you know, Seneca and other ancient Stoics recommended a daily review of how you've got on, what you've done well, what you could have done better, but always to do it in a self-compassionate way. Yeah, people often say, how much time do I need? And when we asked last year, I think the people that had finished, who had completed Stoic Week, said they'd spent on average about 16 minutes, and they benefited from that. So it's not a huge amount, is it? If you think of how many hours there are in a day, but even 16 minutes proved to be valuable. I would say 10 minutes would be the kind of minimum, but the more the better, as long as it's sustainable. And yeah, so what do we provide in Stoic Week? Well, there's quite a lot actually, and it's all free. There's a handbook which will be available on the website, which is on a platform called Teachable, and you can download it as an ebook. We didn't want to do it in Word for a few years because we were I guess we were being a bit protective. What if people, share it amongst their friends? In the end, we decided, hey, the more the merrier. If people want to share it, then that's great. And of course, having it in Word means that you can actually use it as a diary to write in the exercises. Some people prefer to print it off. There's guided meditations. There's discussions on the Teachable platform, and that's really interesting. Actually, I hope that if you do take part in Stoic Week, you go into Teachable and go to the discussions. And if you've got any questions about the topic for the day, or anything that's on your mind to do with Stoicism, put it in there. And either your fellow students or a Stoic expert or both will try and answer the questions. And that's very interesting. And because I know last year there were bits that I thought, that's a very good question, and then tried to answer it fully. And some of those ideas have got into this year's workbook, so we're trying to improve it. Video content, so videos from people like Chris Gill, Donald Robertson, John Sellers. Oh, yeah, the option to take part in research by doing the questionnaires where you can assess yourself in terms of well-being and stoicism at the start and at the finish, and you're also helping us with our research. And a facilitator's guide, which Phil and I together have worked on. So the idea of that is, if you're in an organization and you want to lead a Stoic group, this facilitator's guide tells you how to do that. Or even if you just want to do it with some friends and you perhaps might know a little bit more about Stoicism than them, then ask us for the facilitator's guide. We've only just started that. It's the first year we're offering it, so we're interested in feedback on that. And just to say that you don't need to be an expert on Stoicism to be a facilitator. I think it's always handy to know a little bit more than the other people you're facilitating. But the idea is more that you're kind of doing a guided discovery of Stoicism if you're a facilitator using that guide. So I'm going to talk about each day very briefly, and we'll see if that point I made is true about the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. So day one, we talk about the dichotomy of control, and many of you will be aware of that. You'll also, even if you're new to Stoicism, probably be aware of the Serenity Prayer, which is not identical, but it's quite similar. And people that know more about Stoicism will, I'm sure, have heard of the Stoic Archer, which is one of my favorite concepts. So when I'm counseling people and they are very upset because they can't control the outcome, or the outcome of their efforts haven't been as good as they hoped, the idea of the Stoic Archer, which is that the point is to do the best you can. You prepare yourself, you take aim, but if a gust of wind or fate or bad luck means you don't hit the target, then not to take it to heart. That's one of the compassionate elements of Stoicism. So look, this is where I'd like you to put stuff in the chat. It's a fairly hackneyed scenario, but I think a very relevant one. You've got an important meeting, you're on a train, it stopped, and an announcement comes over the loudspeaker. We're very sorry for the delay. We're going to move. We'll be on the move as soon as possible, but we don't know when. And that does happen in the UK, and I expect elsewhere. So just talking about dichotomy of control first. There you are. Imagine yourself in that situation. How could the dichotomy of control help in that situation? So just don't be shy to put things in the chat. Don't be shy to put things that are very obvious, because, you know, if no one puts anything in the chat, then this experiment isn't going to work. So don't feel you have to put the most, insightful, novel idea here. Question is, how could dichotomy of control help in that situation where you're stuck on a train? And we've got focusing on your actions and intentions. That sounds like a very good answer. Ask yourself what's in my control. Keep a calm and cool in. These are all very good answers, except I'm going to be late unless I can magic a new train. And that's probably something you can't control. Use meditation. That's an interesting idea. Keep me from complaining to my fellow passengers. Yeah, so time to read a book from Brian. Excellent. So the dichotomy of control on its own, in my view, helps in two ways. It can help you keep calm because you just can say to yourself, I can't control the train. So all of that kind of fight flight that started to generate, you're calming it down, which is good. And the more calm you are, the more rationally you can think anyway. But then you think about what can I control? What is up to me? And yeah, you can read a book, as someone said, you can meditate, etc. So dichotomy control, very useful idea, but it's not all there is to Stoicism. Okay, so going on to what we're covering on the Tuesday, which is emotions. And by the way, I've included the graphics that we're including in the handbook of Teachable, which were generously donated by someone that was participating last time, or the time before, maybe, I think it was. And as many of you know, CBT drew on Stoicism to create what is probably the most evidence-based therapy these days, particularly for dealing with emotional issues like depression and anxiety. So the basic idea in CBT is that how you think affects how you feel. And it's very similar in Stoicism, although Stoics would often use slightly different language, that we have first impressions, which we can either assent to or not, and then we'll get second impressions. And Seneca talks brilliantly about this in On Anger. And my co-facilitator in Stoic Week, Eve Riches, has done a very nice meditation, which the link's for there, which is part of Stoic Week, but it'd be a great one to listen to any time, particularly if you were on that train. So if you're on that train, how could this idea that in the moment I've got some thoughts that I can either agree to or not, how could that help you? This idea that there's a gap between stimulus and response, and that we can certainly influence the emotions we feel. So again, how could this idea help you when you're stuck on the train? Again, if you write in the chat some examples of how day 2 could help in that particular scenario. And let's see what people are putting. Realize you have the right to choose your response. Slow my roll. Help me not feel helpless. Thank you, Patricia. Yeah. So you might have the thought, I am completely powerless here. But then you might realize, well, I'm powerless about some things. I can't get the train going, but I can do some things. I can choose not to let those panicky thoughts get control of me. I can choose to decide what to do. Don't yell at the train personnel. Okay, observe the situation. Do not judge it. Change perspective, distraction. Yeah, we were talking about perspective when we come on to the view from above. They're all kind of connected. And okay, brilliant answers there. And you'll notice that you could, in managing emotions, draw on day 1 and control, and say to yourself, I can't control the train, but I can control my responses. So we're already seeing how these 2 days build on each other. And one thing that we're going to be using in Stoic Week is the Stoic framework, which is a kind of CBT type framework, but it's been Stoicized, which I think is kind of funny because CBT, in a way, borrowed from Stoicism, and now things like this Stoic framework, you see it spells out Stoic, borrows from borrows from CBT. So we stop, we take a time out, give ourselves time to analyze, maybe to calm down, take a breath. We observe our initial thinking and feeling. And that's very important, that there's us and there's our thoughts, and they're not the same thing. We can observe our thoughts. We identify a perspective that can help. And this is where it all comes together, because these perspectives that can help, as you do Stoic Week, you learn more and more. First day, the dichotomy of control, and then each day it piles on, so there's more things. And then you choose a Stoic response. And the idea is to do this in real time. Day 3, the virtues, which, I mean, more and more, I think this is such a key part of Stoicism, and it's sometimes left out in some presentations of Stoicism, who kind of would certainly emphasize those first 2 bits. Virtues, though, it's all about being the best version of yourself in modern parlance, or being of good character, and the 4 cardinal virtues are there on the graphic. And the idea is, there are several ideas, but one idea is to cultivate these virtues. Another is to see all situations through the lens of the virtues as an opportunity to practice the virtues, and as an opportunity to learn how to use the virtues. So if we take this situation, are the 7 topics systematically in order based on data you've accumulated from over the years, is a good question from Vanessa. I'll come back to that at the end, actually, when I talk about the SABs. So my question for now is, same situation. You're on the train and you're looking at this situation through the lens of the virtues. How can that add to what we've already got? How can thinking about courage, wisdom, self-control, and justice help you when you're stuck on the train and you're late for an important meeting? So again, write down in the chat how the virtues can build on how to deal with the situation wisely. Which virtues would be relevant and in what way? What would a wise person do now, from Phil? Great question. Yeah, wise, just, and temperate. Needed. Informs your decisions based on your values. Use courage to work with people who aren't managing well. Nice, that's justice as well. Great. Now, one of the reasons I think the virtues are so important, because just with the dichotomy of control, sometimes I've had people who've kind of come to me for therapy, and they say, "Hey, I'm Stoic," and I say, "Oh, that's interesting. What is it you like about Stoicism?" And I've had people say, "I really like that dichotomy of control thing because it means I don't have to care anymore. You know, I can just accept everything." And that misses out on a really important part about Stoicism, which is that we accept certain things, but other things we act virtuously with. So in that situation in the train, you might well choose to call the people who are expecting you, or might be worried about where you are. There might be other people in the train. There might be I don't know, someone from another country who doesn't understand the announcements, and you might kind of try and explain to them what's going on. So justice would be particularly relevant, I think, in that situation. And so I think this is so important because it provides a counterbalance to the idea of Stoicism being something quite passive and just all about and quite narcissistic potentially, because it's actually about how we connect with other people as well. I'm gonna speed up because I do want to have time for us to have a conversation, since that's the name of it. Day 4, caring for ourselves. Eve Riches, who co-wrote the materials, put in the idea of the oxygen mask. which strangely you won't find Epictetus talking about. But the idea that is there in Stoicism that we care for everyone, including ourselves. But obviously, we're also caring for other people. And some of you may be aware of the circles of Hierocles and the idea that we're, sorry, it's gone forward. It should have done. And the idea that we're caring beyond ourselves and our family and extending it to the whole world. Or, as Hierocles said, you're actually drawing in others so you are as concerned about them as you would be about yourself. And again, I'm not going to go through the train thing for every day, but we can see how that might fit. You look after yourself, because if you're panicking, that's not going to help anyone else on the train. But you also think about who else on the train or beyond might be affected. Seeing the bigger picture is partly to do with the idea of the universe, and it's big, and we're a very small part of it. And it's gone on for a long time, and we're a very small part of that. And Marcus Aurelius, I think, used this a lot, because there he was, the most powerful person in the world, and he used it, I think, to get a bit of humility, to not get too big for himself, which isn't necessarily how we're going to use it. Certainly in therapy, I would use this idea to help people get a perspective. And you'd ask questions like, in 10 years' time, how much is this going to matter? And if you think of everybody in your town or country or the whole world, how much is what you're going through bad on a scale of 0 to 100 compared to others? It's not to invalidate your experience, but it is sometimes to help get a slightly different perspective on it, because sometimes we can catastrophize and exaggerate. We might get a time later to play the pale blue dot video, which is a great way of getting a different perspective, but we'll see if we get time for that later. And what we do in Stoic Week, which is, it's a deliberate choice. It's to kind of scaffold these Stoic ideas. So its own, in the introduction, we talk about Stoicism and the philosophy of virtue being necessary and sufficient for happiness, which is what all the ancient Stoics think. But in Stoic Week, we're actually saving that up for day 6. The idea being that when we've kind of gone up what I sometimes call the Stoic elevator, up those 5 levels, this idea will be much more appealing. And because it's an idea that some people don't necessarily agree with, we're not insisting that people agree on it to benefit from the previous 5 days. So, I mean, in the ancient world, there were plenty of people like Aristotle, who didn't go the whole way in this idea that living a virtuous life was sufficient to be happy. But it is a very interesting idea. And so on day 6, we invite people to live as if it was true, which means prioritizing virtue over everything else. And so if you're on that train, you're not actually thinking about, you might not get that job because you're late for the interview. You'd be thinking purely about how to behave like a person of good character, and everything else, as on these scales, matters less. These virtues outweigh everything else. So that's day 6, is where we get into kind of really heavyweight Stoicism. And that's, so each day also we're using this Stoic framework to build on what we've previously learned, and that's the Stoic perspective for that day. And then day 7, we put it all together in a toolkit and reflect on what we've learned, and probably do the questionnaires where we see how Stoic we are now and what our well-being is. So I'm just going to spend 5 minutes more on the Stoic attitudes and behaviours scale. No more than that, I promise. So what is it? Well, various scales which purported to be Stoic have existed for many years, but if you look at them, they're all about the stiff upper lip, or what's sometimes called colloquial lowercase Stoicism, emotional repression, and that is not a good thing. So these articles, which appeared in psychology and medical journals, said things like Stoicism is unhealthy and it's bad for you. Don't do it. And this didn't sit well with us in kind of the modern Stoicism movement, who thought, well, actually, our experience is that Stoicism is good for you, and uh, and and that's what our research suggests as well. So we started to develop a scale. We've been doing it for about 12 years, and finally, we got some really well qualified and experienced psychologists to go with us to help validate the scale. It's been validated, and we got it down from 60 questions to 40 questions, so it's shorter, and we've got 7 dimensions, which kind of the things that cohere together, and all of these dimensions are positively associated with well-being, and really excited about this because it'll give you, if you're doing Stoic Week, the opportunity for it to be a mirror. Actually, which bits of Stoicism do you align with most? And also a map, because you might notice, hey, I didn't score so well for such and such a dimension of Stoicism. And that could be an opportunity to work more on that, as well as the idea that researchers will now be able to undertake a lot more research on the benefits and also limitations of Stoicism. So I see Stoicism as being in kind of the same position that mindfulness was maybe 20 years ago. And I hope that there will be a lot of research and a lot more Stoicism available to the, well, I mean, Stoicism is available to the general public. It's just that not so many people know about it. So I'm very excited about that. Those are the 7 dimensions, and you might notice that they do map pretty closely onto the 7 days of Stoic Week. We've got control, we've got Stoic mindfulness, which is very closely related to emotions. We've got virtue, we've got benevolence and compassion, the Stoic worldview. We don't talk too much about the ancient physics in Stoic Week, but we are doing the view from above. And of course, those beliefs about happiness are when we talk about Stoic it up. And the ethical development, hey, that's what we're doing throughout the whole week. We're becoming perhaps a more Stoic, and I'd like to think better version of ourselves. So if anyone really wants to send themselves to sleep, they can go along to the Modern Stoicism website, go to the research page and read through every single report I've written since 2012, because there's a lot of data there. But we've consistently found that however you measure well-being, Stoicism seems to improve it. And last year, for instance, we found that dysfunctional attitudes reduced a lot, which is very interesting because it suggests that Stoicism could be a very good resilience measure for people who aren't yet depressed or anxious, but they might get depressed or anxious. I think there's a very good reason to think that a course in Stoicism will kind of be a preventative measure. And that's the end of my presentation, but I'm very interested in the discussions and conversations afterwards. And that is a link for Stoic Week, which I hope many of you will take part in. I'll stop the share.
Well done. Thanks, Tim. You're excited about this, I think. Yeah, I see applause in the bits. Okay. It looks like icons floating up off of the screen for everybody. Excellent. Yeah. Is there anything in 2025 that you're looking for? I mean, you've got something new on the SAB scale. You've kind of like you've got new data and insights. Is there anything you're looking for this year?
I'm really looking for people to write interesting stuff in the discussions. That's actually what I'm most looking forward to. I'm always interested in, the research and all that comes out of that. But thinking back to last year, it was very exciting when people asked interesting questions, and you could see them talking to each other, in the teachable discussions. Uh, so I'm really looking forward to that happening again. Uh, I'm I mean, we have added a few things. If people are returning participants and thinking whether it's worth doing or not, we've improved the handbook, I think, and we've got a little section for returning participants, and so yeah, I think it'll be a good week.
It's always good. And it takes a while. And then the reports come out. We learn that, oh my goodness, it worked again. It continues to work. I mean, I don't think Epictetus would be surprised by this or Musonius Rufus. I think they had an idea that this was working back then. Um, Tim, what, you know, obviously a lot of people start. Some folks have, some folks make it through all the time, some don't. You told us that we could do this in 16 minutes. It strikes me that if I can do this in 15 or 20 minutes, just for everybody else in the world, that's like shorter than any episode of like a half-hour TV show. I mean, it's really not much time. I mean, I don't know, is that The Simpsons? I don't know, but something like that. The thing is, it really, if people say I don't have the time, I'm thinking you could probably find it.
Yeah, and we've got audio recordings of the materials as well. So uh, if people have got a commute, uh, they could just listen to it. Then it's a good way of accessing the materials as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of using both like the beginning of the day and the end of the day. So I usually like I'll grab the stuff up in the morning, take a look at that, and then I use it to sort of anchor my thinking for the day. And then at the end, we kind of go back and I'll say, all right, how did I do? What happened here? What did I learn out of this? So that's kind of my journaling thing at the end. Um, okay. Let's see. There are a couple of questions here. Someone said, "What is the expected donation for Stoic Week?" Um, Tim, Modern Stoicism is a not-for-profit. We do accept donations via PayPal and all the rest. But one of the things I love about Stoic Week is that there is not even a donate button, I don't think, except maybe at the very end.
Yeah, there is no expectation on my part for anyone to donate. I mean, that may whoever's the treasurer from Modern Stoicism may not thank me for saying that, but it isn't an expectation. If people want to donate, then it's obviously very welcome.
Yeah. Uh, for those of you, and I don't know where that question came from, and when I say where, I don't mean what part of the world it came from, but for those of you who live in my part of the country where someone's always passing the hat or the donation plate or whatever, we're a pretty light touch. Modern Stoicism is a pretty light touch by comparison. So there's opportunities to help us. And Tim and Eve and Brittany have done some interesting things like created programs for schools and so forth. So it will be put to good use, but this is a pretty lightweight sort of organization in terms of getting that done. Um, you asked the question, or Vanessa had asked the question, are the topics in order? And I kind of think you addressed that. The topics are all addressed. They're things that you knew, but I think she might have been asking, does the order in which they're presented matter?
Yeah. Well, people might disagree about this, but as I was kind of saying in my presentation, the theory of deferred indifference, or that virtue is sufficient for happiness, we leave it to late because we think that all the other ideas will help make that idea more credible, and also mean that if people don't embrace that, they can still benefit from all the others. In terms of the other days, uh, I kind of think the dichotomy of control is a very good one to start with. Uh, and the idea of doing the Stoic mindfulness and the emotions, you've got to do that fairly soon as well. Otherwise, it's just all theory. You want to actually apply
Right.
it in the day, and you've got to do something on the virtues very early. So I think those need to be the first 3 days. But the order of it maybe doesn't matter too much. And then I think the other days are important and interesting, but I think those 3 days are the ones to come first, because I think for two reasons. One is they're the most acceptable. Uh, so if you took 100 people, 70 people might accept all of those three, and only say 20 people might accept some of the later days. They're more acceptable, and also I think they're the most foundation. So
Hmm.
I think
I think that's
I
right.
think
I
they're
mean,
good good
I
ones to
agree
start with.
entirely. And obviously, Arian agreed as well, right? Because the Enchiridion starts, it opens right up with the dichotomy of control, right? And this is, if you even think of the handbook as kind of a digest of what he picked up over time from Epictetus, that he opens right there. Some things are up to you and some things are not up to your judgment, right? Yeah. Uh,
Absolutely.
so, what else? Oh, someone asked about the slides. So we were definitely, I know that I definitely am going to have the video. Tim's going to have the video. We'll post it in various places. You can actually go back and rewatch the video right now using the YouTube link that we've got on the Modern Stoicism YouTube channel. But someone had asked if they could have a copy of the slides. I don't know how you felt about that, Tim. I'll let you answer that part.
Yeah, I'm happy to make them available as a PDF. I don't know what the best way to do that is.
You send it to me and I'll make sure that folks who signed up for the
I'll send.
call get it.
I can send it to you.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, we'll do that. And some other folks had asked, or at least I saw one in there about the book that we did. So we can send you that link as well. That Tim and I did a thing, which was kind of a facilitator's guide, which was specifically aimed. There were quite a few questions in here about the Stoic Fellowship or how can I find other people. Let me say in that regard that you know, our thinking is to kind of help people figure out how to do this with Stoic Week. And then maybe later we're going to do even more along that. It would just kind of help people create little groups of their own in their community. What if you had, a few people that sat around a table every week and talked about Stoicism? What might that be like? Get a few friends together, talk about philosophy, talk about what it would be a good human being, right? Kind of a thing. So in that, so we've got in the facilitator thing, by the way, and someone said the slides, it's a book, it's a little manual on how to run one of those things and kind of be a good facilitator and do that. Tim, are there any other common questions? I know you get questions every year. One of the things I think you highlighted, for example, all of the uh, training materials that are inside of the Stoic Week, but there's also sort of Q&A. There's some opportunity to discuss the ideas with facilitators, to leave comments, etc. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing inside that space as well? What happens inside a Teachable?
Yeah. So it's a very flexible program. You sign up, and you need to access the Teachable platform to download materials. And we do encourage people to go onto it every day. But we know from experience that some people will just download the booklet and go through it at their own pace. But if you do go onto the Teachable platform, which again it's all free, uh, you can access audios, as I said, recordings of each of the days read out by myself and Eve. There are meditations by Eve and Donald Robertson and others. There are uh, videos, 5 or 10 minute videos from experts each day. So there's a lot there. I mean, there's potentially too much,
Mhm.
and I'm interested in what people think. This year, I had the bright idea of actually this was kind of inspired by my son. So my son is in his 20s, and I tried to get him to do Stoic Week, and he liked it, but he said, "Dad, my friends." they're not gonna do all of this. They need something that they can do in 30 seconds.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, can we do a stoicism in 2 minutes a day? And I started down that road, but in the end decided it was just too risky because these ideas are quite complex and they're potential to be misunderstood. So where I'm going with that is that on the one hand, we can do little sound bites, we can do little 2 minute videos on the dichotomy of control, but I think it does pay careful reading and discussion. And as I say, on Teachable, you could spend a lot of time. There's a lot of materials there, and I'm actually kind of prefer that to the idea of diluting it down to a 2 minute soundbite for each day.
Yeah. I heard, I think it was Seth Godin that said this, and he said almost every modern business book, he says it's 5 pages of what you need to do and 95 pages of convincing you to do it. And I think that our platform is a little bit like that, which is the core of it might be on a page or two, but the thing is, you need all of this other support to understand why this is worthwhile. See that others have done it, see how this has been thought about over the years. I think there's just a lot of material there. And particularly those first times that you're going through it, the short version isn't quite enough. I think that's what you just said, Tim. Did I say the same thing?
Yeah. I think that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so someone asked the question in here about, and I'm going to let you answer the big tent question. So, there's a traditional Stoicism idea, a modern Stoicism idea. Providence comes up periodically, and I think it's probably must be inside here a little bit. Do you have any thoughts about how you explain that to people?
Explain Providence or explain the big tent? Or,
I would explain the big tent, not
uh,
Providence.
I'm glad you answered it that way. Uh, so we asked a group of experts what they understood by modern Stoicism a few years ago, and we got two rather different answers actually. Uh, some people said modern Stoicism is just anyone practicing Stoicism in the 21st century. So what is a modern Stoic? It would include people, if Epictetus came back from the grave and belonged to himself, he would be a modern Stoic just because he'd be living today. Uh, Other people said modern Stoicism is updating it according to what we know to be the case today in terms of physics, which of course is still
Mm,
lots of things are still up for grabs, or not set in stone. But there are some ideas that are less credible now than they were 2,000 years ago. And in Stoic Week, we're kind of a big tent in that we're not kind of saying it has to be one or the other. But
yeah.
so we're kind of saying that anyone who who wants to practice Stoicism, come along and do Stoic Week. But we're certainly putting in the forefront those ideas that that don't seem just kind of not very credible these days. So it's a big tent, uh, but the Stoic week itself, we're kind of emphasizing the stuff that is more generally acceptable. In terms of what we know about the physics, I mean, some of the ideas are quite radical and revolutionary. If you're on that train,
Yeah.
which is not getting somewhere to go, I would put good money that over half the people will not be practicing the dichotomy of control and will
Right.
not be living very virtuously. So actually, in terms of how many people live, these ideas are pretty radical and I can say revolutionary because they've been around for a long time, but certainly different from mainstream thinking and behavior in some ways.
Yeah. That's actually right. And I haven't thought about it that way, but to your point, it's like these ideas hit people I mean, if you've never been in this before and you come up and you hit dichotomy of control and then you begin to understand it, I mean, a lot of people fight that idea to begin with, right? I mean, forgetting the, virtue is the only good, just starting at that some things are in your control and some things are not. There are people who are simply not willing to give up what they think are their handles on the universe, right? And so they end up having to fight that idea and move locus of control inside and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, I guess that is completely radical for some folks. Tim, thank you for doing this. Thank you for helping, doing all that you've done since 2012 to bring Stoic Week to tens of thousands of people now over all of these years. I look forward to the 4 or 5,000 or whoever sign up for it this year getting a chance to do it. Thank you to the audience here for being part of this. Um, and we hope that you will join us on the 27th of October. You can sign up now. Tim and the Teachable system will make sure that you get all the links that you need. I guess you can download the book already, I think, right? You can already log into the system. The pre-event day stuff is there.
Uh, well, not quite because
Okay.
you can certainly enroll now, and almost 1,000 people have enrolled. Uh, but we deliberately don't give the book out too soon, uh,
Hmm.
because we want people to do it all together.
Oh, I
And
see. All
also,
right.
there's a slightly sneakier reason, which is that when people do the questionnaires at the start of Stoic Week, we don't want them to be too influenced by Stoic ideas at that point. But
Gotcha.
but so we released the handbook uh, at a week before Stoic Week, so pretty soon, but not quite yet. I think it's is it Sunday? I can't remember exactly when it'll be released, but it'll be released fairly soon.
Yeah. So the trick is go hit the link now, which we've put in the chat multiple times already, the Stoic Week link, and sign up. And then, you will get the emails and you'll get released the book and there's a
Yeah,
questionnaire in
yeah.
the front
What?
end and all of
Yeah.
that.
What? One tip is that when you go into Teachable, it asks you, do you agree to be sent stuff by Modern Stoicism? And sometimes people don't tick that because they think they're just going to get lots of spam from us. But it's really important to tick that because that's the only way that we can send you daily emails about the materials and anything else. So it's not to spam you, it's so that you can kind of get involved in Stoic Week. But that's a
Right.
limitation of Teachable. If it wasn't for Teachable, we'd be sending that automatically.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Tim. Thank you to the audience. We look forward to seeing you at Stoic Week. And I've stuck the link in there one more time. Get enrolled now. Tick that box that Tim has told you to tick. And we will see you very soon. And by the way, for those of you who can't get enough of us, have Stoicon coming up on Saturday. And Tim is going to be there helping us out. He's the part of the opening panel for Stoicon this coming Saturday as well. So come hang out with us on Stoicon as well.
And just if I can say something then, so the theme of Stoic Week is well-being, which is very much focused on, as I said, it's not just about ourselves, but it is kind of on our own well-being. And Phil, the theme for Stoicon this year is, drum roll,
Engaged
civic
citizenship,
engagement,
civic
engaged
engagement. Yeah.
citizenship. Yeah,
Yeah.
engaged citizenship, which so I really like that we're doing both this year. They're kind of the more inward focused and also Stoicism and society. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to say this is Phil's way of putting it. Lots of folks come to Stoicism, and the first thing they do is they build their inner citadel. But the next thing we want you to do is to sally forth and go out and be good humans to everybody else. So let's build a citadel and then move along and be good humans to everybody else. All right. Thank you all. I will see some of you on Saturday. I hope to see all of you at Stoic Week. And thank you, Tim LeBon.
Thank you very much. Lovely
Yep.
to see you all, and thank you, Phil.
Thank you all.